It's the last weekend before what could be an historic midterm election, and the candidates are making one last push to get out the vote.
While many analysts are focusing on the weak economy as the big issue, many voters say their #1 concern is the big spending in Washington.
It's crunch time. The finish line is in sight, and the candidates are delivering their closing arguments. The state of the economy is what's motivating many voters, but for others, there's also a deeper issue at play. Big spending with big deficits in Washington by a government many Americans believe has become way too big and too powerful.
I think a lot of people aren't happy with all the spending and all the laws and things that are happening.
It's what inspired the Tea Party movement to begin with, and for many unsatisfied voters, President Obama and the democratically controlled Congress are the problem.
I don't think the majority of the people in the country are for the large government spending that the Democratic Party is in favor of.
And the public certainly doesn't approve of the way Democrats have run Congress. A new poll shows a whopping 65% of likely voters say if they had the chance Tuesday, they'd vote to replace the entire Congress. And even though he's not on the ballot, President Obama is a key issue for many voters. That also isn't good news for the Democrats because voters don't think Mr. Obama deserves to be reelected either. 56% would like to see the president fired in 2012, according to a survey by a Democratic pollster. As many analysts have pointed out, this midterm election looks a lot like 1994, when voters revolted against big government and government-run health care. And just like that year, it looks like another tidal wave is about to sweep Washington and bring in a very different-looking Congress. John Jessup, CBN News, Washington.
From what I'm seeing, the polls seem to be tightening, and whether or not we're going to actually throw the bums out is going to happen. We're going to find out on Tuesday. So the big issue is, will people feel strongly enough about their own congressman? I've seen polls before where a majority of Americans want to throw out all of Congress, but when then you ask the follow-on question, well, what about your congressman? Then they say, oh, no, he's the best, and so I'm going to vote for him. So we'll see come Tuesday. You look back at 1994, yeah, there was a pretty dramatic change, but then by 1996, we elected Bill Clinton back as president. So will this just be a short-term thing, or will it last for a while? I hope it does last in terms of fiscal responsibility. And this is regardless if you're a Republican or a Democrat. These guys have been spending us into oblivion. And when you start looking at some of the projections going forward about the state of our nation's debt, well, the valuation of the U.S. dollar is the only way out of this thing unless we stop this nonsense now. So we've got to get our fiscal house in order, or we're looking at, can we even afford a military anymore? I mean, you look at these numbers and projections and you just start choking and go, how in the world did we elect people to spin us into this kind of hole? Well, Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN Newsroom. Lee?
Well, Gordon, as you know, the economy is a huge issue in this campaign. The economy did pick up slightly in the second quarter, growing at a 2% annual rate. That's slightly better than the 1.7% growth in the second quarter, but still far too slow to generate enough jobs to bring down unemployment. Economists expect the jobless rate to stay above 9% for months to come, and that is a huge issue. Just a few months ago, it appeared West Virginia's popular Democratic Governor Joe Manchin would cruise to victory in the state's open Senate race. Now Republican businessman John Racy has made it much closer. Jennifer Wishon tells us why.
Picturesque West Virginia is in the middle of a wild, and if you're a Republican, wonderful Senate race.
I'm excited. It's close. There's finally a Senate race here in West Virginia.
Meet the candidates. Democrat Joe Manchin considers himself a social conservative.
I think they're very pleased with where we are in the state, very proud of who we are as West Virginians. We're going to work just as hard, if not harder, in Washington.
Autograph requests along this parade route provide some evidence of the governor's near 70% approval rating. But his opponent, businessman John Racy, has something Manchin doesn't. He's a Republican, and that's music to the ears of some West Virginians anxious for a leader to fight the Obama agenda.
John Racy, running for the United States Senate. Good to see you.
The winner of this race will replace the late Senator Robert Byrd, the powerful, often controversial Democrat known for bringing home the bacon. But this year, big spending in Washington and new programs on top of a recession have many in the Mountaineer state considering change.
I think people are just tired. They want to see people, and they want their elected officials to do what they ask them to do.
Mary Beth Blair owns a small graphics design firm and says this has been her most challenging year.
I am the face of small business in America, and I have not felt anything in a positive way this past year from the current administration, so I have to blame it on that.
Manchin is distancing himself from more liberal Democrats and promising to take aim at some of the president's policies like cap and trade. But Racy is trying to blow holes through that strategy using Manchin's own words.
I am totally behind healthcare reform.
Andre McDonald says Democrats just need more time.
I'll definitely lead towards Manchin, without a doubt.
Not everyone has made up their mind.
I kind of wish there was another candidate to choose from.
Mike Cox and his son run a vending machine business. Along with the economy and sky-high health insurance, he's concerned that Racy's wife is registered to vote in Florida, where the couple owns a home.
If he was strictly from here, I'd probably go Republican, because that's the way the Democrats are going right now. It just ain't going very well.
I guess only time will tell, and I can't see it getting much worse, so hopefully it'll get better.
A common wish among voters as they decide whether or not to buck a trend that's favored West Virginia Democrats for decades. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, West Virginia.
A new documentary proposes solutions to global warming that even skeptics can embrace. It's called Cool It. The film's main character believes in global warming, but he's in trouble for straying from the party line. Here's Paul Strand.
Ending catastrophe.
Environmentalist Bjorn Lomborg says there's way too much panic over global warming.
Global warming is real, but it's not the scary end-all of all things as been made out in Al Gore's film. And in some way, that's crucial because that scare diminishes life quality. We talk to kids who think that they're going to die because of global warming right now.
The documentary points out panicky governments are pledging to spend trillions of dollars on programs that do little good. European Union nations say they'll spend $250 billion a year on climate control for the rest of the century.
The net effect will be to reduce temperature by 0.1 degree Fahrenheit by the end of the century. So we're essentially already spending $250 billion to do no good. We say, why don't we spend that money and spend it much better?
Cool It suggests the world instead spend $100 billion a year on intense crash programs to develop alternate forms of energy fast.
Al Gore, in Inconvenient Truth, got everybody all fired up, but he didn't offer any solutions. So he brought this big awareness and this scare tactic of, in fact, he said, the end of civilization as we know it, and yet he offered nothing that we should do about it. So with Cool It, we try to go to the next level, really, and point people towards solutions. So whether you're talking about solar or wind energy, there's some incredible scientists working on amazing solutions for the future, but they all need to be funded properly.
Because Lomborg points out, even if you don't believe in global warming, you should want a world free of fossil fuels.
They pollute, they create a security problem, and fundamentally, there's a lot of things that would be nicer if we could just simply produce energy off our rooftops or in our own backyards, if we could grow our own oil fields out in the sea with algae, for instance.
The film zeroes in on Lomborg's fight with fellow environmentalists who think it's blasphemous that he's skeptical about their panicky attitudes and super costly solutions to global warming. Paul Strand, CBN News.
Colorado Governor Bill Ritter's support of the National Day of Prayer does not violate the Constitution. That's the ruling of a district court judge in Denver. The Freedom from Religion Foundation had sued Ritter and the state of Colorado, arguing the governor's National Day of Prayer proclamations violate the First Amendment. The judge has dismissed that case, saying the proclamations do not encourage Coloradans to pray or not to pray. They simply assert their right to practice religion. Earlier this year, a federal judge in Wisconsin, though, ruled that the National Day of Prayer is unconstitutional, but the Obama administration is appealing that ruling. Gordon?
Well, we've finally gotten a judge to rule in favor of common sense. We've had national days of prayer in America since our founding. George Washington was the first one to call for it. And you look at some of our national holidays like Thanksgiving. That is a national day of prayer. We're supposed to give thanks, and Congress has declared it as a national holiday. So if we're going to start taking on the National Day of Prayer, next is in line, we're going to take on Thanksgiving, because we're supposed to give thanks. Now more than ever, I think Americans need to pray. We really need to get on our knees. And I think this needs to begin with the church. We need to get on our knees and ask God for forgiveness and for a way out. We've gotten ourselves into a mess, and we need Him now more than ever.
A Korean-American missionary held captive in North Korea is now saying he was tortured and may have permanent injuries. Robert Park crossed from China into North Korea last Christmas. He said he did it to bring God's love, and even carried a letter calling on the regime to relinquish power. Border guards, though, arrested him and held him in the capital city until February. Park now says his interrogators beat and tortured him until he admitted to committing a crime. Experts are warning now that the cholera outbreak in Haiti is far from over. It's claimed more than 300 lives, and reportedly there are nearly 5,000 cases. Operation Blessing is providing ongoing relief to those suffering from the disease. Volunteers worked this week with a medical team from St. Luke Hospital. They provided emergency medical there to people in that village. OB is also distributing so-called jerry cans to villages that desperately need safe water. Jerry cans use a highly advanced filtration system to purify water. OB is also working to airlift a water purification system to the town of Grande Saline. The roads in that area are impassable because of the heavy flooding, and many people have died there from cholera-related illnesses. You can find out more about Operation Blessing by going to their website at ob.org.